Can you explain what you saw in San Francisco?
Yeah. Well, you'll be able to see it on Sunday.
Yeah.
AviAcrossAmerica.com. There you go. You can watch it on Sunday. But what I saw, I spoke to anyone I could talk to in Tenderloin, and you literally, like, everyone's really passionate there because they're living what I can only describe as, I guess, the Democrats' dream for the rest of the country. And it kind of presents itself as a warning. And everybody there, almost everybody, the only person that I think I spoke to that was kind of pro Harris was saying, yes, it's going to be great when this spreads around the rest of the country. But they were saying that it all came down, like a lot of them came down to illegal migrants taking all their opportunities and that's how they feel. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But this is how the average and mostly African Americans that I spoke to were feeling. And I don't know if they're going to be voting, because I get the feeling there that most people don't really, all they're really fixed on is the next hit.
Have you seen the story out of Chicago with this? The black residents literally said, "We are being replaced." That was their quote.
Yeah.
Because the illegal immigrants. But I don't know, man. How is it in Australia? Was it how you seem shocked by it? Australia must be nice.
I've never seen anything like that. I dare say it'll come, but it was a pretty big shock. It's confronting to see, and like I said, I'm somebody that has my own history. I spent my teenage years on the streets, shooting up heroin in my arm, but I have not seen that. Fentanyl is a scary.
So exactly what were you saying? Like, people were doing these drugs?
They don't do drugs on the street. That's like, okay, I've seen that before, but I've never seen them firstly do it so openly. And we spoke to cops on the street as well, kind of telling us in their way what's going on. And what the issue sort of is when you can read between the lines of what they're saying. But people are literally falling over. There's no fear of any consequence, because there is no consequence. And you walk into this bizarre alternative reality, which is horrible. Like, you feel bad. They were really nice people. Straight up, everybody would talk to me. Almost everybody except like a couple of drug dealers and
these are drug users.
Drug users.
Wow.
But all like on the nod talking to us.
Ratio: how many regular people going to buy a Starbucks and how many people doing fentanyl?
There's more fentanyl.
More fentanyl.
Everybody's using.
But that's because San Francisco has made the Tenderloin district
and that's what people
a mecca for drug. I mean, they talk about it. They first off, it's taxpayer funded for the most part, but they talk about it like, well, it's good because we know where you are, and so if you overdose, we can help you, or we can make sure you have clean needles.
Anyone who says it's good, go there.
That's the thing. Like, to me, it's like, this is where you want to be, and I'm almost not surprised that people are so comfortable talking to you, because this is part of the routine. I mean, I read an interview about a year ago with like a volunteer worker who worked in the area, because they do have different like areas set up to try and help people, and say, well, are you interested in going to rehab? And they're like, no, thank you. I would rather stay here, because it's a culture of like, well, this is the norm and this is what we're doing.
There was a bunch of people that I met there that said they actually came, that they weren't from there. They came there for the drugs and for the freedom. There was one who told me they actually came for the support that was offered around drugs. So they joined a rehab, they got off drugs, but then, and then they remained clean for a couple of years. But then, just from being around everyone is essentially on drugs, they got pulled back into it, and it's hard. Like a 23-year-old, boy, to me, like, I feel like my kids are almost that age. He's telling me, he's been on it. He's waiting to get off it. He doesn't sleep at night because the 2 bags of his property that he owns, the 2 things that he owns, bags of stuff he owns in his life, he will lose it if he falls asleep at night. It'll just be taken. It's a insane place, and if really that is the future of anywhere, like broader America, I would do anything to vote against that.
What do you think they should do? The government, at least. What should they do to rectify it?
Make drugs illegal again. To be honest, like I'm somebody that kind of sits in a weird position, because this conversation is being had in Australia about legalizing drugs, and in our capital, I think they are legalizing or decriminalizing heavy drugs. And I dare say that anyone in Australia who supports that should actually go to San Francisco and see how that actually ends up. It doesn't end well. And as somebody that, I used to use, we had needle exchanges and all that. So I think like I can see a balance in stuff. Having said that, when I was a kid, it also encouraged me to use drugs because it was easier for me to call at 2 a.m. a needle exchange to deliver needles than it was to get, let's say, a pizza at that time. So even in my time, in my experience, I may not have have gone as far if it wasn't as accessible. And it's nothing compared to on the street in San Francisco in the open. I remember we had to hide from the police to score drugs. Literally it's all happening.
It's ruined the city. I mean, the stores are shutting down.
Nothing.
There was a big store, I think Walgreens pharmacies were closing, and there were elderly people who now had to walk, 4 more blocks, and it was very difficult for them to get their prescriptions. The mall wrote off their lease, and basically the company that owned it forfeited the loan to their creditor. And the same thing happened with several of the largest hotels in the city.
Yeah.
They have to know that these policies have resulted in the city falling apart.
If you make it illegal, and because I think there's probably no easy solution, which is why it hasn't been solved yet, then would it criminalize possession and all those people would just start getting rounded up and sent to a jail to...
Round them up and send them to rehab. Force it. I don't know. It's a hard thing. You can't get somebody off drugs who doesn't want to get off drugs. It's true. And the problem is that their policies has just encouraged so many more people to get on drugs. So what are you going to do with those that are already on drugs? Yeah, it's a problem. But you better stop it now because what you have now is bad enough. The problem is going to just grow. And everybody there admits it. Like even the drug users, the majority of them admit that there is a major problem.
I could see not all drugs are the same. Like weed, it stinks when it's smoked, but it's not heroin. It's not opioids. It's not
fentanyl. I've never seen anything like that. And
I think
there's not as much
ban all
fentanyl
drugs
in Australia, right?
I don't think. Yeah,
all drugs.
I'm drinking caffeine right now. You sell drugs.
No. All drugs.
Caffeine.
Every single one. Ibuprofen gone.
Silly man.
All of them out.
So there really is a conversation like fentanyl. I've never had much up close experience with fentanyl. Have you? I mean, I don't know anybody that's been on fentanyl. I haven't watched. You have recently?
I've never seen it.
The crazy thing is these stories where these college kids or these high school kids will buy some kind of pill or something. It'll be laced with fentanyl and they'll die. Why would a dealer do that?
I think it's a mistake.
Yeah.
I think when they put fentanyl in it, it's an accident that they put that much in.
Yeah, that much.
Fentanyl is cheaper than some other.
Yeah, it'll get you high. I was going to tell you a story from my childhood, but probably not good to say.
Not a good one.
But the idea is probably to get the kids really high for really cheap, and just miscalculated. Yeah.
Wow.
Because the other thing is
it'll be a great high for sure. There's a reason why that many people are on it.
I got prescribed opioids for when I had my impacted tooth. They do nothing for me. Just has zero impact.
What was it?
What was what?
What we chose?
Percocets?
What do you know the milligrams of it? Was it not strong enough? Were you not?
I don't know. All I know is that it doesn't do anything for the pain. That So when I had it before for a kidney stone, it feels good, but the pain is still 100%.
Oh, that's the thing about opioids. They don't actually stop the pain. They make you not care about it, which is weird. So,
I
that's the
certainly
way it's
cared.
described. Really?
You weren't having enough.
So when I got a kidney stone 7 years ago and went to the ER, and because I didn't know what it was, I thought I might have had appendicitis, and they gave me everything, and none of it worked. And so then they finally gave me Toradol, which is an NSAID, and pain gone. So I'm an ibuprofen fan. That stuff seems to do the job for
I'm
me.
caffeine all the way. That's my drug.
Well,
of choice.
that's not a painkiller. So,
But isn't this one of the problems with fentanyl, which is that people are affected by it differently? There's not a universal fatal dose, but it can be very fatal in small quantities. And that's also interesting that you're saying there's none in Australia. I mean, or at least
I don't think there's a
not as
fentanyl
prevalent.
issue yet in Australia.
But I don't think Australia had the same kind of opioid crisis that we
Oh,
did.
we
lot of
did.
our-
We-
a
lot of-
I don't know if it's the same as here, but it was,
During the
back back when I was a teenager, like even the 2000s, like heroin was everywhere. Now they're just getting into the coke.
But you didn't have like the prescription opioid crisis.
That's the thing here in the U.S. That's a lot of that is driven by prescriptions and by doctors that said
there are 3 waves of the opioid crisis in America, and one component of it was the overprescription of opioids, which is fascinating because then it makes it easier to say, like, have you tried fentanyl?
They were telling doctors that opioids were not addictive.
Yes.
I don't know why on earth they were doing that.
To sell them.
Well, I
don't know if you've heard of Big Pharma.
Well, I mean, yes, but
I think that was his sarcasm. I think.
yeah, like I mean,
read that wrong.
It seems obvious that those drugs are addictive. So why doctors weren't saying, "Oh, hey, we have to manage your pain with this."
Well, to be fair to doctors, I don't think doctors themselves knew. I don't
prescribing.
think doctors know very much. They're glorified pharmacists half the time. They just know whatever they're told.
But if you look at, like, if I understand correctly, like the Netherlands, the way that they prescribe medication, like when you go to the doctor and you have to have some kind of painkiller or whatever, they'll give you a little bit, and then they'll say, well, does it hurt? Are you hurting? And they're like, yeah, well, there's gonna be some pain while you heal. They don't just try to eliminate the pain. And I think partially that's because in the United States, everyone is so focused on comfort constantly, and if you reside yourself to the fact that life has discomfort sometimes, and if you get into an accident or you have to have an operation, there's going to be uncomfortable times, and
that's when you cry.
Well, that's when you test your mettle. But the point is, the constant striving for comfort, and whether it be here in the U.S., and not that I'm complaining because I love air conditioning, but the way that we air condition the buildings that we live in, we're so accustomed to it, whereas other places in the world, comfort is not the primacy. The comfort doesn't have the primacy that it does here in the U.S.
Dr. Drew was on IRL like 2 years ago or something, and he was Dr. Drew Pinsky. He's board certified physician, et cetera, been around. But anyway, he said that they started treating pain. This was something that changed in the medical industry. I think it was in the late 90s, where doctors had to treat pain. And if a patient told you I'm in pain and you wouldn't treat it, you could lose your license for malpractice, because it became officially indoctrinated that you had to treat their pain, not the illness itself. And that's when the opioids like really took hold, is because it's like, I'll give you, then they're supposed to give them more painkillers because it's the pain's the problem now. And it's not, it never was before. It was the illness that's causing the pain is the problem, if you can fight through the pain. I don't know if that's actually ever been reversed to this day.
Yeah, I think America has a different. I mean, we know this is different than probably Australia, but definitely our culture around medicine is different than the way it is in Europe. In part because of the structure of how doctors are paid and the pharmaceutical industries are involved. But I think what is fascinating to me about all of this is that fentanyl in America is a problem because we had a pre-existing desire for opioids. And if you're in a country that then did not get this influx of an alternative, you stand a different chance. So I could understand why Australia is now suddenly like, well, maybe we should decriminalize this. Like maybe they're not facing the same fallout. What I think is wild is in America, we have cities like San Francisco and other cities that have taken steps to either decriminalize hard drug use or, make it safer, quote unquote, by needle exchanges or whatever else, and it fails. And then we just continue it or do it again. We create these systems of dependencies that aren't actually helping anybody. And we know that we have a history of a problem, and yet we think we're being compassionate, but really we're just letting people suffer openly.
I don't know what to do, man. I mean, could you just make fentanyl illegal? Just the possession
You'd
of it?
have to stop the trafficking of fentanyl. I mean, there is legitimate medicine grade prescribed by doctor fentanyl, right? Then there's like manufactured fentanyl that gets trafficked.
And also, it is a controlled substance. It is illegal to have it, unless you've got a prescription.
One?
I don't know what it is. I don't know, but I assume that it is an opioid. It is an opioid.
It's an opioid, yeah.
So yeah, it's classified with all the other opioids.
There's also norfentanyl, which is a more powerful form of this.
It's illegal too.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.